So I am back, and today I'm going to be playing around with embossing leather again. I've already spritzed my piece of leather, so I'm just using a strip that I've cut myself. And today I want to use these pattern plates. I think they're officially called. They're basically made to emboss and pattern metal. So in general, you would use these plates. I have a couple of different designs. You would use these. So this is more for people who are, already kind of making some jewelry. You use this with metal, put the metal down on top, roll it through a rolling mill, which kind of acts sort of like our little die cut machines, although it's a little bit more pressure. And then it embosses metal. So since I'm playing around with leather, I'm assuming these will also work with leather, especially since a lot of the other things I've tried have worked fine. So, so there's two things with these plates. So these plates, as you use them in the rolling mill, start to bend. I'm a little nervous using it in the Sizzix Big Shot. Probably should use one of these other two, which are a little bit straighter. But I'm going to go ahead and try this one. It's not really curved that badly. In general, the other thing I will say, I'm using the Sizzix Big Shot here because I just assume more people have this machine than the AccuCut Grand Mark. But I have that machine, and that's like one of my all-time favorite machines. And it came, or it didn't come with it. I had to buy it. I don't know if they still make this. They used to make embossing plates that were plastic for the AccuCut machine, and you could buy this plate to work with that to emboss paper. I have to say, I never really thought that all worked very well to emboss paper, but using this with leather and different things to run through the AccuCut machine works fabulously. So if you've got one of these and an AccuCut machine, you can go ahead and use that. It works great. You're still going to probably have to play around with different sandwiches, but that's about the only thing you'll have to worry about. The other thing that you do have to be careful with these plates is they are steel and they will rust, and your leather has to be damp, at least, when you're embossing. So you want to make sure that you clean off, and as soon, you can see mine's kind of started to rust. Mine, I work in a basement, so I'm kind of stuck with a little bit of rusting here and there. So in this case, I'm going to put my, I might try... I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to center this and just have the design in the middle. I think I'm going to do that rather than trying to line it up again. And this again is the fiddly part, trying to find where the design is and center it in the middle of the leather. I might have to come back in later and trim it, but them's the breaks. So just going to at least see if this is straight going across. Yes, it is. So, and I'm going to try and center it if I can. And then we always need, when we're embossing, we always need the embossing rubber. And then in this case, I don't have to worry about snaps like I do with, the pre-made leather blanks or bracelet blanks. So I'm just going to go ahead and so I'm thinking I'm probably going to get the edge of that plate is going to leave a mark. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss, because I keep talking about this in some of my videos and it doesn't always show that way. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of trouble, and so I forgot to mention, I don't know if this is actually going to work. So my, sorry, I'm trying to get this to go through, and thinking and talking at the same time. It doesn't always work. I forgot to mention my multi-purpose platform is too thick to work with these plates. And so I've monkeyed around with making my own platform, and I don't think it was actually thick enough. No, it was not. So I'm going to try to lift this whole thing off. And let's see if I can shim it with paper. And see, and run it through again. And see if that will work without moving anything. Nope, still not enough. So I need more shims. So I'm grabbing more paper. And it's still not thick enough. So I'm going, oh, you know what? Duh. I forgot my platform this time. Okay, hold on. Sorry. Let's try this again with the platform. Okay, that's a little bit better. And it's definitely not rolling as well without the multi-purpose platform. But I'm still thinking the general concept will work as long as we can get it thick enough. Some of my shims, so I think that's part of the problem. Okay, let's lift this off, see if we're getting anything. So we're getting a little bit of it. I don't want to lift it off completely because I want to try and salvage it so I don't have to go cut another piece of leather. So I'm going to try one more thing. Let's see if I put one more platform down. I'm sure I've moved this, but we'll see how this works. Rather than using the pieces of paper as shims. All right, that seems to be working much better. So I will take it off this time. And I will show you what I ended up using. All right, so let's take a look at the sandwich. So I have a regular Sizzix cutting mat. And then I have these magic mats that I got from scrapbook.com. I have 2 of them. And then I have, I believe this is another embossing mat, the white one. The plate, the leather, the embossing rubber, and then another embossing platform. Nice. Okay, so that was the winning combination. And this is what I'm talking about. See the edge of the plate? I don't love when that happens. So I've talked about this in other videos, and I'm going to have to go in and trim down probably. But the plate worked amazingly well. Look at that beautiful design. Oh my God, I love that design. So I've talked about this in other videos. The way to avoid this is to use mats that are smaller than whatever you're embossing with. So if I had gone through, I would have had to do it in a couple of passes, which was kind of what I was thinking through at the beginning. And if you do that, where, you just cover part of the design, but not up into the edge, so you would do something like this, you'll still get this edge, but hopefully that lines up with your leather or goes off your leather, but you won't get that end edge. And so you would have to, with a long piece of leather like this, especially if it's a repeating design like this one is, then you could try to do it in 2 passes. That again becomes fiddly because, you've got to line it up and all of that. So it's kind of pick your poison type of thing. And in general, by the time you go, I usually try to, put snaps somewhere to camouflage, snaps to camouflage that line. Sometimes I'll go through with leather punches and kind of fill in that space so it's not as glaring. So there are ways that you can camouflage that, but sometimes it's a necessary evil to get a design like that. I mean, that's just beautiful. So anyway, if you are a jewelry person that has these laying around, and you're a crafter like me that has one of these babies kicking around, and you want to try and buy a couple of pieces of leather, go ahead and give it a shot. And again, make sure that these are completely dry when you're done. So I should mention I got this design, actually all of these designs. They're kind of my vendor of choice for these types of things. It's Potter Press, and I will link to that also from my blog. So thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. So I'm back, and I wanted to show you, so here was one of the other plates, and I had less of the ridges on the bottom because I ended up using the smaller AccuCut plates. Going forward, I think what I will do is I have a big mat. So I just have a big piece of a mat that I cut pieces out of to use in cases like this. And so I should just cut one that fits within, the pattern plates and not go all the way to the edge rather than trying to monkey around with 2 smaller pieces. But that's what I did to try to avoid the ridging at the ends of the pattern plate. So in this case, again, this was a little bit longer, I believe, plate. And so you can just see the hint of that ridge right there. Because when I was rolling it through, the mats actually moved. They shifted a little bit. So going forward, like I said, I would just cut a mat that kind of, fits not all, within the confines, not all the way to the edge. And that probably would avoid that problem. And then this was what I was talking about, that to avoid shifting, this design, if it shifts, is not, you basically have to toss the piece of leather. So I just use this, and this one's stickier than some other ones, but you're going to finish the back anyway, and there's the result of that design. So these pattern plates work really, really well, and that's that design. So looks like I actually might have missed one. So again, like I said, going forward, I would cut the mat to actually fit rather than playing around with the funky. And this tape that I have, the Pro Mask, Actually seems stickier. I usually use the green stuff, but that seems a little stickier. So finishing hopefully will take that away. Otherwise I'm going to have to go in and, you know, stick the tape down and kind of get it to all look the same. So should be fine. But anyway, that is embossing with metal embossing plates or pattern plates. Thanks for joining me. See you next time. So I didn't do this on camera, but I probably should have. I did go in and fix this. I had a teeny tiny piece of the mat that just covered that design. So I basically lined up with this one, put the embossing rubber over it, and then just covered this edge. And so it fit perfectly, just that one piece of the design. So I was able to fix it. So yay. Thanks again for joining me. See you next time.